Hey, how's it going? Alex here from IdeaSpot, and in today's WordPress tutorial, you're going to learn how to set up the all-in-one security and firewall plugin. Now, the all-in-one WP security and firewall plugin is an excellent free security plugin for WordPress and extremely popular as well, 800,000 active installations, and it genuinely is free. These guys at Tips and Tricks HQ, they do a lot of great free WordPress plugins. I'm not sponsored by them at all. I really am a big fan of what they do. And this is probably one of their best pieces of work, this security and firewall plugin. So we're just going to head over to our plugins and we're going to add new. And from here, we just search for the word security in the search bar there. And when this search loads up, we can see the most popular security plugins. So WordFence, we've already covered WordFence and we've already covered Security. And we're going to have a look at all-in-one WP security and firewall today. So let's go ahead and click install. So the top 4 plugins are really these 3 along with iThemes as well. So I'm going to look at iThemes a bit later, but as we said, we're going to look at all-in-one today. Let's click activate that. These all actually do a little bit different kind of things, so they're all kind of worth looking at. So I've gone ahead and activated that. I've got my little message that says activated, and now we've got a WP security option in our WordPress dashboard menu. So the cool little thing they've done with this is they've kind of gamified the security dashboard by giving this little meter. So we start with a little meter saying that our security strength is not very strong. Well, that's not true. WordPress is actually quite secure out of the box. This just goes ahead and adds lots of layers of hardening on top of WordPress. So as we go through, we'll see this little strength meter increase. And the more intermediate and advanced features you implement, the further this little meter is going to click along. So we're not going to get it right to the end, but we'll tick along into the green area and we'll get most of our points sorted out. So first thing we'll do, let's head over to settings. And we can have a look at this one called WP version info. So this is one little security tip you can do. You can just check that little box and it will remove the version from all the WordPress pages because bots like to scan across the internet and find different versions. And if a version has a specific vulnerability on that day, they might be able to attack that vulnerability. So if you just hide the version, that just hides one vector that hackers can attack you from. Now, the next way we can get some of these little points are from the user accounts section. So it's going to say basic 15 out of 15. I'm not using an login name that's called admin. That's the first thing you never want to do is use admin as your username. My username is IdeaSpot, so you get 15 out of 15 for doing that. Let's go ahead and check the display name. Now I've got 0 for this because IdeaSpot is my login and it's also the name of the display name. So we're going to want to edit that. So you just click on the link there and it will take you to the user edit. And we want to change the nickname to something else other than what we actually log in with. So I'm going to call it, say, IdeaSpot class. You could decide whatever you like for your website, but I'm going to change it just so it's not exactly the same as what I log in with. So IdeaSpot class, then we scroll down to the bottom and click update profile. So now that's all saved, let's go back to the user accounts and let's reload this and see if we've picked up 5 more points, which we have. That's pretty cool. Let's have a quick look at the password thing here. This is just a little password tool that teaches you the strength of your password. The trick to making a strong password is just making a nice long password. So you can sort of see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Any sequence like that, it's not going to take very long to crack at all. You need a nice little random sequence of letters and numbers. And by the time you get a decent length on the password, it's going to go into the thousands and thousands of years to crack. So make sure you've got at least 15, 20 characters in your password and you've used some combination of capitals, lowercase, and some numbers at least. So just check your password, check that it's strong enough. You want to get that sort of into that green area there for your password. I think most people by now are using a password manager and you can use a generated password from Google Chrome or wherever and you'll get a strong password by default by doing that. Okay, the next thing we'll look at is user login. So here we enable the login lockdown feature. So this is an important feature that stops people trying to brute force their way into your admin area. All we want to do here is go ahead and check these off and save settings. The only thing I wanted to ignore was the notifications, because I just hate getting email notifications, because there's always some robot scanning the web and trying to randomly log into websites, and you just don't need your email box getting filled up. If you've got a fairly popular website, you'll get login attempts all the time, and that will just generate way too many emails. So I don't really recommend clicking that one. Okay, the next thing we'll look at is, we'll save the settings there. And whitelist settings, I would not really need to use this. You can probably just leave this blank. If you really want to get into the really advanced features of this software and you kind of risk locking yourself out by making it too secure sometimes, you could put your IP address in there, and that will allow that IP address to always log in no matter what. So you could try that, but I think we're just going to leave that blank for now and go over to our next option here, and we can look at failed login records. So this will just check if people have been trying to log in and failing, or trying to brute force their way in, it'll show them. I've just installed that, so there's nothing here yet, but that might help you trace anyone who's trying to attack you. Force logout. Now you could check this and it would force users to be logged out after a certain amount of time. That could be a bit annoying if you want to leave yourself logged into the website all day on your own computer that you trust. I think it's okay to leave that off, I think, but up to you if you want that one. It's not essential. Account activity logs, again, nothing in the logs yet, but you can use that logs to help tracing any security issues if you come across any. Okay, the next thing we'll look at is user registration. So if we click this, this will require manual approval of new registration. So just make sure that when people are registering for your website, that you as the admin approve it first. So no automatic registration. Now, this might not work if you're running a membership site where you want people to be registering all the time. So this can be annoying, but in most cases, if you're just running your own private blog and you only have yourself and maybe a few other editors or authors, this is probably okay. So I'd probably recommend this in most cases. And let's save our settings. The next thing we've got is a registration captcha. Now this is cool. This lets you use Google Captcha to enable people to register, and they have to actually use the captcha to register. So this is pretty good. I'd click that. And the registration honeypot is just a little security hardening thing for the registration page. It stops robots from registering because it will give a hidden field that robots will be able to fill it out, but humans won't notice it. So go ahead and check that one as well. And don't forget to click Save Settings with any of these. Now let's go ahead and look at the database security. This one can be good or bad. Like, a lot of people really like changing the table prefix of the WordPress database, but it can affect some plugins that don't work if it doesn't have a standard database prefix. So I'd probably leave that for now. You could test it, but make sure you back up your website before you try doing this one. This is more of an intermediate to advanced one, so I might leave that one for now. Database backup. This is kind of cool that WP Security includes a little database backup system. I actually use Updraft Plus already on here, so I don't specifically need it, but I will tick it for now just to show you that this feature is available. You can have a backup every 4 weeks of your database, and it'll keep up to 2. You might have more. You might want a full year of backup databases every 4 weeks, so that might be okay. Let's go ahead and save that one. And you can actually get a copy of the database emailed to you. So as long as your database isn't massive, it probably will work okay getting an email. But if you've got like a massive WordPress site, that might be a 40 megabyte email or something. So it might not work, but you just test that anyway. If you don't check it, it'll still save the backup databases in a folder in your WordPress install. So you'll be able to go in and FTP or use the file manager in your control panel and get your backups out of there. So either way, you'll be able to get your backups. Let's have a look at the file system security. So file system security is just about the permissions, and make sure these are all green. In this case, I've got one where the recommended permission is a little bit different from the current permission. So let's just set those recommended permissions and make sure these are all green. and you'll get some points for doing that. Let's reload that and check if I've got my 20 points. Cool. There's a few things we can do in here, like PHP file editing. Check that to make sure that people can't edit PHP files. WP file access, prevent access to the default install files. Let's go ahead and check that. Now, just make sure that you test your website. It doesn't break any of your plugins, because some of your plugins do rely on being able to do these things. So depending on the website, sometimes getting security can cause issues. So like I said before, it's good to have backups. I'm using Updraft Plus. I'd recommend taking a backup before you start fiddling with too many advanced features here, just for your own peace of mind, in case you end up breaking something if you're not too familiar with what these things actually do. All right, now let's look at the blacklist manager. So you can actually ban specific IPs if you like. If you're under attack by a certain range of IPs, you'll need to find out what they are and add them in here. We're not under attack at the moment, so it's not really going to be of any use putting things in there, but just be aware that this exists. It might lock you out of admin if you don't use this correctly, so maybe we'll just leave it blank for now, to be honest. I think it says you must input at least one IP address. So if you mess that up and put the wrong IP range in and block out your own IP address, you might have to go back into your database and manually remove this, and that's going to be a huge hassle. So maybe just skip this step for now. Let's go have a look at the firewall. Now, this has a basic firewall. It's not as powerful as, say, using the WordFence web application firewall or some of the paid firewalls that you might get from someone like Security or from, say, a Cloudflare professional plan. But it's a nice little basic firewall that will stop some of the common threats that you might face. And it does a few little things there. So it's worth ticking that one. And these ones here, not really sure. I think most people will not need these, so it doesn't really matter if you leave them blank. And debug log file, definitely check that, because some robots will scan the debug log file and find any functions that they might be able to exploit. So it's good to just block access to it. You can always get access to it through your own FTP or file manager. So you don't really need to get access to that through WordPress. Now let's go ahead and look at the additional firewall rules. There's some pretty good ones here, like disable index, disable trace and track, forbid proxy comment posting, bad query strings that will help against malicious cross-site scripting, and advanced character string filter. These are all really common exploits that people use to attack some insecure plugins. So it's pretty cool that it includes all of these features. So go ahead and save those. The blacklist firewall rules. This is a common sort of exploit that was in use. No need to go into the exact details of how these works, but definitely check both of those and save it. Internet bots. Let's have a look at that one. Block fake Google bots. This one doesn't really matter. I'd leave that unticked, to be honest. I think there are other bots that you might be blocking out incorrectly if you use this. So, I mean, up to you. You could test this out. If it causes problems with the way that some of your plugins work, then maybe turn it back to off. But I'm just going to leave it off for now. Prevent image hotlinking. I think generally most sites you don't really want image hotlinking. You might have some reason to hotlink images from your website if you don't want that clicked, but I'm going to click that one in this case. And 404 detection, I can leave that unticked for now. I don't think we need to go into that. And custom rules, we can go ahead and make custom rules on our HT access. I think that's a bit advanced for this tutorial, so we can leave that as it is. Let's go ahead and look at the brute force protection here. And renaming the login page, you can rename this WP admin. A lot of people are fans of renaming their admin login page, but it can break a lot of plugins and it can lock you out of your own website if you mess something up. So I think it's probably not worth checking it at this point. It doesn't give you like that much extra security, I've got to be honest. Login capture. Now this is kind of cool, but you do need to sign up for Google reCAPTCHA for this to work. So if we check it, we'll have to have a site key and a secret key. We can get that by going to Google reCAPTCHA and setting up CAPTCHA. But I mean, there's a lot of ways that CAPTCHA prevents bots from attacking your website. So let's go ahead and look at setting this up right now. So all you have to do is go to google.com/reCAPTCHA, and I'll just delete that out and show you how that loads up. So it'll take you here, and you have to click the admin console there, and it'll allow you to sign up. So my website was just called, Dev Idea Spot Site, and I think it's using CAPTCHA 2. Let's have a look here. So I'll close that one, and it says reCAPTCHA V2 widget. So we're going to choose reCAPTCHA 2, and you can choose what kind of captcha you'd like. I'm not a robot tick box. I think that's quite cool. An invisible reCAPTCHA badge. It does just as a background check, and reCAPTCHA Android, validate requests in your Android app. So I'm going to go with it. I'm not a robot tick box. And the domain we're going to be using here is the Dev Idea Spot site. So let's pop that in. You don't need the HTTP. You just pop that in like that. You put your email address, accept the terms of service, and let's click submit. Okay, then you will get a success message here, and you will get your site key and your secret key. I'm just going to go ahead and copy both of these. Your secret key will be here. I've removed it from the video, so you can't copy mine, but you'll get one in here anyway. So just go ahead and paste those keys into the settings there. And then we can go ahead and enable the captchas on all of these pages. So login forms, lost password forms, and custom login forms. So go ahead and enable it on all of those and click save. Now the other things here are login whitelist. I don't recommend login whitelist just because it restricts you to logging in only from a certain IP range, and you might want to travel, or you might want to use a mobile phone or a different SIM card or something to log in, and you might not know your IP address, and you might get logged out. Locked out from your own website. So don't use that one, I don't think. Honeypot, I think this is worth selecting. Go ahead and check that. Just another way to stop robots trying to log into your website. Let's have a look at the spam prevention options. Again, we can enable the captcha on the comment forms and block spam bots from posting comments. Let's save that. Spam IP monitoring. We don't really need to mess with that or these ones. I think the captcha thing does most of the work there. Let's have a look at our scanner. Now, this is not really a malware scanner. This is just a change detection scanner. So, I mean, it's worth checking it, but it's not really as good as having, say, the WordFence malware scanner or the Security malware scanner. So just be aware of that. It will scan and it'll tell you if anything's changed. If you didn't mean to change anything, it might give you a clue if there's been an attack, but probably there might be automated processes running on your site, and it might look like something's off, but actually everything's fine. So you will probably get a lot of false positives by doing this, but test it out for yourself and see if you like it. It'll email you if you check that box. I don't really like getting lots of emails, but up to you. Now there is a malware scanner there, and like what I was sort of saying was that you really need a dedicated malware scanner, and they do offer one, and it's not part of this plugin, but like I said, you can go ahead and check out sitescanners.com that they recommend, or like I said, WordFence or Security has a very good external malware scanner. So definitely have a look at using a malware scanner. Let's look at maintenance. Now you could just make this during when you are working on your site. During the development phase, you might just want a blank page, and it will just say page is not currently available. So if you've got problems with your website, or if you're working on a brand new site and it hasn't been launched yet, you could use the front end lockout. I'm actually using a plugin called Coming Soon Mode, which does the same kind of thing. While you're developing a website, you don't want to open to the public, so that allows you to do that. And then let's just have a look at maintenance. Copy protection, that's that annoying right-click block where if you want to block people from right-clicking and copy-pasting things. I think that's really annoying because I'd like my readers to be able to copy and paste like the address or phone numbers or bits of information that they'd like from my website and make your website user-friendly for actual readers. So that's annoying. I wouldn't tick that one. Frames. Someone might try to iframe parts of your site and use it for their own purposes. You could check that if you wanted to. Doesn't really matter. Users enumeration, it's not critical either. And the WP REST API, a lot of common WordPress plugins need the REST API, so I wouldn't bother checking that either. So that basically wraps it up. Let's go back to our dashboard and see what we've got. Now we've got 375 points out of the total points. So we've got a much harder to crack WordPress website thanks to this free plugin. So hopefully that was useful. I mean, go ahead and test all these things. Just see what works for you. Make sure you take a backup. I really love Updraft Plus. Take a backup before you mess with anything too advanced. If you're a beginner, definitely take a backup before you try these security features, because sometimes you don't know exactly what you're getting yourself into, especially if you've got an established website with lots of plugins and lots of content, and you don't want to risk messing everything up. So that's my only word of warning, but I actually really like this security plugin. It gives you a lot of extra little features that you don't get in a standard WordPress thing, and it doesn't really cost you anything in terms of performance or anything like that. So I think this is a good option, and definitely check out this all-in-one WP security and firewall plugin. So thanks for watching. I'm going to come back with a look at the iThemes security plugin as well. So stay tuned for that one, but hope this has been useful. Give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.